back. The Democratic Alliance says an investigation into former Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula should continue despite her resignation. The party welcomed the recommendation made to the Powers and Privileges Committee that Mapisa-Nqakula has a prima facie case to answer for hiking the salary of Secretary to Parliament Xolile George by nearly 70%. Now let's get more insights as we're joined by DA Chief Whip Siviwe Gwarube. Siviwe, thank you so much for joining us this Friday evening on News at Prime. As we said, you as the Democratic Alliance, you initially submitted these charges on the irregular hiking of the Secretary of Parliament. It was last year, way before we even knew that Mapisa-Nqakula would find herself in the hot water that she finds herself in right now. Take us through what happened after you raised those concerns and made submissions.
Good evening, Masa, and good evening to Newsroom viewers. Just as a quick, brief background into why we laid the complaint. We laid the complaint because the Speaker and the NCOP Chair, Mr. Masondo, the then Speaker, Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula, and Mr. Masondo, appeared to have approved a 70% salary hike for the Secretary to Parliament, Mr. Xolile George, which meant that the hike was essentially from 2.4 million rand to almost 5 million rand. And this is despite the fact that they had presented to Parliament that the Secretary to Parliament would be earning no more than 2.6, as was advertised. And so our view was that, well, the Speaker at the time misled Parliament. And so I laid the complaint with the Powers and Privileges Committee to make the case that she has misled Parliament in terms of the National Assembly, and so did the NCOP Chair, Mr. Masondo. And so this matter has been ongoing for a while, and this week we received correspondence from the senior counsel that was essentially allocated to this case that we cooperated with, we gave our testimonies to. And the senior counsel found that the Speaker has a case to answer for in terms of this matter. Now, this becomes important because in spite of the fact that the Speaker, the then Speaker, has now resigned, Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula, even as an ordinary citizen of South Africa, remember the Powers and Privileges Committee is empowered by the Powers and Privileges and Immunities Act, which if one is in breach, it does not matter whether they still remain a member of Parliament, but if they're in breach of that act, whether it is misleading Parliament, whether it's just in contravention of the act and the provisions of the act, they can still be possibly criminally liable. And that is our view. Our view here is that, remember, whether the Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula is now no longer the Speaker or no longer an MP, the reality is that there's still the issue of the fact that the Secretary to Parliament is earning almost double what the House had agreed to and what the House was told about. And so that needs to be rectified, or at the very least, we need to be alerted to how that decision was arrived to and what happens now. And so that's why we're not letting this matter go. And we're saying that the committee must still pursue the matter. The committee, unfortunately, this week had decided that it is not the appropriate forum and that it should go to another committee. That is besides the point. Our view is that we will take it to whatever committee needs to sit, because remember, Masa, that this money is not money that belongs to Parliament. It is public money, and therefore it needs to be accounted for. So whether the punitive measures are now given to an ordinary citizen who is no longer the Speaker, or the matter is now rectified where the salary is regularized, we now still need answers about how did these people arrive at the decision to hike a salary up by 70% just after three months after the Secretary to Parliament had started his job. It makes no sense. Nothing like this can ever happen in a private company. It's not performance related. Nothing like this makes sense unless we get the answers that we need. And so whether it's in this term or in the next term, the matter must still be deliberated on and we must still have a finding.
Yeah, I'm sure, Siviwe, most South Africans would jump at the opportunity of a 70% salary increase. But of course, it also wouldn't be taxpayers' money, right? But also, when we look at the precedent that this sets in a climate of corruption in a post-state capture era, where we are going to be still paying for the salary, which is almost double what it was supposed to be anyway. This matter will be moving from commission to commission. As you're saying, you will still be fighting this matter. But as you're fighting it, the money is still going to the Secretary of Parliament.
Yes, and that's why, Masa, one of the things that we are going to be calling for in the next couple of days, I think in the next 2 days, is that if the Powers and Privileges Committee is refusing to pursue the matter, in spite of, remember, they are refusing to pursue the matter, in spite of the fact that they commissioned a legal opinion from senior counsel. The senior counsel came back and said, there is a case to be answered for here. There are irregularities here. And therefore, this needs a hearing. And so, of course, now the issue of the Speaker resigning then became an issue. However, it still remains that there are people in the institution who are here. There is the NCOP chair, Mr. Masondo, who was part of the decision, and whoever becomes the successor of the Speaker is going to need to be part of the solution in terms of the fact that we need to get answers and we need to regulate the matter. Because as you indicate, this is public money. We can't play fast and loose with public money because of who occupies the position. Therefore, now it can essentially be, we can pull wool over the members of Parliament. The Secretary of Parliament, and this is an important point, the appointment of the Secretary of Parliament comes to the House for a vote. When the Speaker brought the matter, she undertook that at the time, Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula indicated that it would be according to the advertisement. And the reason why this is important is because if you're going to pitch a job at a 4.6 million rand, then you are likely to attract other participants who would have been locked out of the opportunity if they were now misled. And so it suggests to us that there was already a predetermined a person that was identified for the job, and then it was almost premeditated that you will accept the job at this salary and we will hike it. And so we still need those answers. It doesn't matter that Parliament is wrapping up in a couple of weeks. The fact of the matter is the salary is still being paid. Therefore, we need to make sure that there is an investigation on how this decision was reached. The members of the public needs to be taken into confidence as to why it is that a salary, an advert can be put out that says, this is a job, these are the requirements, this is the salary, and then subsequent to that, you hike the salary. So that's why we can't let the matter go. The Speaker's resignation, Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula's resignation, is neither here nor there at this point. And importantly, the Act makes provision for criminally charging somebody who's in contravention of it, even when they are not a member of Parliament. And so her culpability is not something that we're going to let go of. But at the same time, the most crucial matter is we still need answers about the salary and we still need it regulated. Our view is that you cannot hike a salary post a House resolution that has been adopted, and therefore you need to reverse that and take it to the House afresh. And so, unfortunately, while the Secretary of Parliament has been in the job for over a year now, the reality is that we have been misled, and that needs to be investigated, and that needs to be rectified in accordance to what was said in Parliament.
You speak of criminal charges as well, Siviwe. What are you going to do about this matter that you're fighting? I mean, the DA has indicated that you are exploring your options. What can and will be done about this?
So, there are a number of options that are available. So there's a separate process in which we can pursue criminal charges against the former Speaker, Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula, and that's a separate matter. But the more important matter that I think is of concern to not only the DA, but also to the people of South Africa is, what are you going to do about making sure that the salary that is being paid to the Secretary of Parliament is something that is agreed to and is essentially in line with what was advertised. And so that's the pursuance that we are now here, that we are pursuing. And that is something that can be dealt with in the Financial Management of Parliament Committee, which we will be raising with. But also we are exploring, requesting the Deputy Speaker, who's now the acting Speaker, Masa, to say, look, you must initiate an investigation. Parliament is still very much valid until the 21st of May. Therefore, there's time to be able to investigate the matter. We've got a legal opinion already that says that this is irregular. And so we don't have the luxury of simply ignoring legal counsel that was contracted by Parliament, that was paid for by Parliament. And they came up with a resolution, they came up with a judgment, they came up with an opinion that says this is irregular. So Parliament now has an obligation to essentially regularize what has been irregular. And our view is that this matter, this whole contract now needs to be reviewed. What was agreed to? Who agreed to it? Why did they agree to it? Why were we as members of Parliament told that the STP would be earning 2.6 million rand when clearly the executive authority, which is Mr. Masondo and Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula, knew that they would hike up the salary? So we are pursuing two concurrent actions, and the one is exploring what criminal charges can be brought in terms of the Powers and Privileges in the Immunities Act, but also we're pursuing this from a parliamentary angle to say, well, the Financial Management of Parliament Committee is empowered to review this entire contract, and therefore they must do so, because we must be able to assure South Africans that when Parliament advertises jobs, that it is transparent, that it is fair, and that it will attract anyone who's got the requisite skills. It's not good enough to essentially advertise something that is not going to be what it will be. And the fact that the salary was hiked 3 months after his appointment and then backdated to when he started is very, very, very suspect. And so we can't let the matter go, because the Secretary of Parliament is still in his job and he's still earning the salary, and therefore we must make sure that the matter is investigated and rectified where it is possible.
Does truly sound suspicious, but thank you so much for your time this evening on a Friday night. That was the DA Chief Whip Siviwe Gwarube.